So you're thinking about moving to Utah. Now there's pros and cons to every state, so we're going to be real and we're going to be raw in this video. We're going to give you the truth about what it's really like to live here in Utah, the real pros and the real cons. You know, we want to be real because, you know, the worst thing that could happen, you could move out here to Utah and then you're like, wait, I don't like it. And that's going to cost you a lot of time, a lot of emotional pain, and a lot of money. So let's get started.
Let's do it.
So we'll start first with a pro, and I would say here in Utah is very friendly, right?
I think so. I believe so.
Yeah, very neighborly, like the way that my husband likes to say it is he feels like it's the first Midwestern state, like a very like Midwestern vibe.
Yes. So that is a pro, and it can also be a con.
Oh,
If you're trying to stay incognito,
That's
then
true.
Somebody's going to smile at you.
That's true, and people, knock on your door. It's very, like, the neighborhood is very much like the neighbors talk to each other, do stuff together, have parties.
And don't be surprised if you move in and you get a plate of cookies. That's just
Yes.
kind of how it is.
Yes, for sure. So the next thing we're going to talk about, this can be a pro or a con depending on who you are. So Utah has very, very snowy winters, at least if you're living in the Salt Lake City area.
That's true. Utah has some of the best snow. You know the Olympics 2002, Park City.
Yes, and they might have it again. I think they're bidding.
They're bidding, so
Yeah.
hopefully it'll come this way.
Yeah, so yeah, some of the best snow, Utah is world famous for its snow, but then there is a con to that, right? I mean, you get the long winters, cold, all
And
that
there
kind of
is
stuff.
that aversion.
Yes.
Inversion. So let's talk about that inversion, the pollution. So that starts from November to March.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like, you can notice like the pollution in the sky.
You can see the pollution. That's a con, but that's in the Salt Lake Valley because of the geography of the Salt Lake Valley. So the pollution kind of settles in the crevices of it. And so, there is pollution.
So before we continue, let's just introduce ourselves. My name is Courtney Dezad,
And I'm Sue Halterman.
and we are licensed realtors here in the state of Utah. And if you are thinking about moving out here to this wonderful state of Utah, call or text that number right there. Call or text that number. It is a cell phone, and we can get you started on finding that perfect property for you. Yeah, and then another thing is that we are actually not in northern Utah. We're in southern Utah, which is totally different climate. Totally different climate. People are often really surprised, like if you don't really know much about Utah. So the climate here, and we're in St. George, Utah, it's very similar to Las Vegas.
It is. So our winters are very, very nice and mild.
Very mild.
So we stay in the high 50s, if you
Yes.
can believe that, in our winters, and we're in Utah.
Yes, so that's just another thing. And then if you are thinking about moving out here to Utah, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're thinking to St. George or Salt Lake City. We work in both areas. We have teams in both areas. So you can call or text that number even if you're thinking about that. So a huge pro to Utah is that we have some of the best outdoors
We absolutely do.
that you could find really anywhere in the world.
Hiking, biking, we have trails for walking. We also have lots of fishing.
Yes, if you're big into hunting, there's a huge hunting community here. I mean, just literally 45 minutes away from us is Zion National Park, which is world famous. But then I feel like so much other stuff is often forgotten because Zion is so, famous.
There's Bryce Canyon, there's Moab, we're all in the vicinity. Zion's is the closest, and I think that's why we get noticed. And we're probably about a good 45-minute drive time to Zion's, and it's beautiful. So if you haven't been out to see Zion's, put that on your list.
Yeah, and then of course, if you are thinking about northern Utah, I mean, obviously you've got the beautiful mountains, you've got, just the skiing. It's just phenomenal.
We're also a big camping community.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, our neighbors, they're camping almost every-
RVers.
Yeah.
They are RVers.
Well, that's why, around here, a 3-car garage, RV garage, that's huge.
We also have a lot of boaters, too.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, if you love the outdoors, Utah is a fantastic
found the
state.
place,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, for sure. So now we're going to talk about a con, and that is Utah is not as inexpensive as it used to be. In fact, if you look at the actual cost of living of Utah, so a website that I like to use is bestplaces.net, Utah is a little bit more expensive than the national average. So 100 is average. Utah is a little bit more than that. I mean, home values have just gone up, up, up over the years. I mean, if you even look like 10 years ago, so, it's just crazy. Utah has been discovered. So because of that, people are moving here, and builders, they just cannot keep up with demand.
The secret's out.
Yeah.
So we're ticking up.
Yeah.
But when you get here, it's well worth every dollar.
It is. And if you are coming from like a really high cost of living state, like I know everyone hates Californians, but California compared to Utah is still much more expensive. I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to buy like 100 acres for $100,000. Like
That's not the case.
No. Mm-mm. Yeah, I think I saw there was 100 acres for like 26 million.
Yeah, more like that, right?
Yes, that was in a video that we were doing about land near Zion. So yes, you can watch that video, subscribe to our channel. So number 6 on our list, and this is a pro and a con depending on what your politics are, and we don't care. I don't care what your politics are. It's not something that really affects me in any way. But depending on what your politics are, like Utah is a very big Second Amendment state. So if you are very pro Second Amendment, Utah is a great state for that. If you are not someone who's pro Second Amendment, then obviously Utah is not aligning with those politics.
And I think what a pro is, if you're not a Second Amendment person, it's not thrown in your face. Like, we own a gun, you can own a gun. That's not how we are here. It's just, we're just kind of middle of the row, and the temperature is middle on having a gun or not having a gun.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say actually that's something that I notice a lot about Utah, is that I feel like it's like a live and let live state. Like, people are not trying to force things on you.
I agree.
Yeah, like no one cares what you do. Like, it's
kind of like a core state.
Yeah.
It's like we believe in people, I think, and if you're a good person, it's welcoming, it's good.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. So number 7 on this list is Utah has some very strange liquor laws.
It's a little interesting if you're a drinker.
Yes, for sure.
It's accessible though.
It is. So that's something that people wonder. They're like, oh, can you drink alcohol in Utah? Yes, you can. We definitely have bars here. Even here in Little St. George, we have bars, we have breweries. You can get, something to drink at restaurants, all of that good stuff. But it is harder to buy, I would say.
It's harder to buy, and especially so on a Sunday, because our liquor stores are closed on a Sunday.
Yeah, so the way the law works is that you can't buy anything at the grocery store that's over 5%. So the grocery store is pretty much just like beer and wine coolers. And if you want like actual wine or anything harder, you have to go to the state liquor store. Like, you can't even go to Costco for that. You have to go to the state liquor store. So yeah, and then that's more expensive because there's a lot of taxes added onto it. And then, like Sue said, it's closed on Sundays and holidays.
We are close to Mesquite, Nevada.
Yes.
That's a half an hour drive, and it's south of us, and that's open all the time.
Yes, so that is another tip. Like, if you decide you want to come out here to southern Utah, Mesquite is just down the road. You always have access there. So number 8 on this list. Now, we have to be clear, this is not a pro or a con, because we're going to be talking about, this is a big question that we always get, what is it like living in Utah if you're not Mormon, right? And obviously, we are bound by fair housing laws. We can't steer you in any way, but it is public information, obviously, that, there are a lot of people here in Utah who are a member of the LDS Church. And so people wonder, like, what's that like living in Utah if you're not Mormon? And I did not grow up Mormon. I'm not Mormon.
And I grew up Mormon. Mm-hmm. So I have my lens. Courtney has hers.
Yeah, and I would say that I have noticed, like, literally nothing negative from it.
I don't see any negative, but then again, I've lived here most of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I would say you just, you hear stories like, oh, your friends, they're not going to be invited to play with anyone that's, a member of the LDS Church, and I find that that's totally not true at all. Like, my kids are invited to all the community activities that they have, and yeah, I mean, I almost feel like it's like a non-issue. Like,
I think it's a non-issue. So my husband and I, we've left the church, but our kids still do LDS activities with their friends. So I think it's very welcoming.
Yeah, no, it is. It's welcoming, and I just feel like people think it's like a bigger issue than it is.
Nope, I don't think it's an issue.
Yeah. So number 9 on this list, and I would definitely say this is a con, and this is all throughout Utah, not just southern Utah where we're living in a desert, but northern Utah, it's the high desert, so it's very dry, like very dry air.
It is. So be prepared if you come and move to St. George, which we hope you do. Be ready to buy a water softener.
Yes, you need a water softener, and also a lot of people put like humidifiers in their house.
Oh, they do too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like my husband, he actually got laryngitis, not because he was sick, but because the air was so dry that it affected his throat and he couldn't talk.
And once you've been here for a good 6-8 months, then you'll acclimate.
Yes, that is true. You do acclimate. Yeah, but that's just something you need to know. So if you're used to, like, I don't know if you're coming from Florida or something like that, and you're used to that really high humidity. But I guess the only good thing is that because it is very hot here in St. George in the summers, but because it is so dry, it's not like as noticeable, I would say.
I agree.
Yeah. So number 11 on this list, and this is a con really of the entire, I would say, Western United States, or pretty much anything that's not on the East Coast, and that is that we have very limited public transportation.
That's true. We're not walkable.
No. And like we do have, like Sue was saying, we do have buses, but it's very limited. You pretty much just need a car. Like,
Yeah, most of us live on the outside of St. George or St. George proper, and we're about 15 minutes away. So there's no bus system that goes 15 minutes outside of St. George.
yeah, so it's just, it's something. So if you come from a place, I don't know, like I actually used to live in New York City, so if you come from a place like that where you don't need a car, that's not how it is. And it's not just here in Utah. It's like, this is a phenomenon of the entire Western United States. So a big con, I would say, like the biggest con of living here in southern Utah is that we have really, really hot summers.
We do. We're in the triple digits.
Yes.
And that's in July and August.
Yeah, July and August, brutal. I would say June is pretty brutal.
Yeah, at the end of June.
Yeah.
At the end of June, we're tipping the really high 90s.
Yeah, so it's just something you gotta know. But in exchange, at least here in southern Utah, we have very mild winters. But it actually gets pretty hot in Salt Lake City too. So,
It does. It does.
Yeah. So
Going back to St. George, we're pretty dependent on our ACs. And the
Yeah.
great thing is it's a standard in your house.
Yes.
This is what you get in St. George is the ACs. And we're not usually out in the dead heat of the day anyways.
yeah, and you can get around it. Like people will still play like pickleball in the early morning.
Early mornings, late nights.
Yes, late nights, or like we'll go swimming here in Sue's pool. We'll go swimming late at night.
There's lots of swimming places. There's
Yeah.
lots of community pools. There's fishing places, and there's so many reservoirs. I've counted 5 in this area.
Yeah, so yeah, you can get around the heat. Actually, I feel like you can still go outdoors here every day of the year pretty much. So
That's true.
That's a big positive in my opinion.
Positive.
So I don't know what number I'm on. I know I messed it up. So the next one on our list is a big pro, and that is Utah has a fantastic economy. Yeah, so Utah is just growing and growing because it's very business friendly. There's a lot of companies that are moving here. You might be watching this video because you might be thinking about moving here for a company, or maybe your company is moving here. So that's just, that's a big pro of Utah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I would just put a little caveat to that is obviously St. George, it doesn't have like the robust economy that Salt Lake City has.
Yes.
Yeah, because obviously Salt Lake City is just much bigger. There's just so many more people there. While we definitely have like a growing and robust economy ourselves, it's just not really like that diverse economy.
Courtney, just recently I read that specifically Southern Utah is a great place to do a startup company.
Oh yes, I would agree with that because it's very business friendly, very pro business here. So next on our list is, and this could be a pro or a con, really depends on your viewpoint, but Sundays here are very, very slow. As we mentioned before, again, public information, there are many people here who are a member of the LDS Church, so obviously they really, don't really do stuff on Sunday, so it's just much slower. Some stores are closed here on Sunday, so that's just how it is.
The town is slower, and our
Yes.
national parks are slower around
Yeah.
here. So the lakes will be slower. So if you want to do a lake day, Sunday's a great day.
Yeah, that is true. So if you aren't a member of the church, like you can use it as a day to just, maybe do some things that would be a little bit more crowded on other days of the week.
Plan for Sunday.
And I would say like one thing that's nice is that I feel like it does kind of make me sort of like take Sundays slower.
Yes, isn't that great to have a break in your week?
It really is. So that's been something that I've actually really enjoyed. So next on our list, and this is a big pro in that public education here in Utah is very good. So if you actually, U.S. News and World Report actually just ranked Utah as the best state to live in the United States, and they said that for pre-K to 12, Utah was the 9th best state for education, and it was number 6 for higher education. And I would say that, I would say the public school, I've been very happy with the schools here.
I've had good experience. I have an 18-year-old, and he's gone through a few schools. No
Yeah.
complaints.
Yeah, and then you and Dustin, your husband, you guys went to college here, right?
I did. I went to Cedar City, and Dustin stayed here local.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, so we have Utah Tech here in St. George, and that is is very growing university, really good value for what you're getting. So there's a lot of people moving here for Utah Tech. So yeah, great education here in Utah. So next on our list is crime and safety. Now this is hard to talk about because what I think is safe might not necessarily be what you think is safe. All I can really do is direct you to different websites on the internet. Honestly, just Google it. You can find the crime statistics for whatever area of Utah you're thinking about moving. I guess the only caveat with crime statistics is like a lot of states, especially states that have a high crime, they don't report a lot of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So it can be misleading, but again, I cannot tell you what you think is safe, right?
So for example, I had some buyers come in town, and before I met with them, they took a good loop around the town, and what they were surprised about was that kids were playing. Just playing in their neighborhoods, and that was something that I take for granted.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, if you come from a place where kids are not playing in the neighborhood, so many kids are just out and about. I feel like it's back to how I grew up in the 80s when kids would just like go everywhere without parent supervision. That's how it is here.
And neighbors, we all walk around our neighborhoods.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I would say people really like take care of each other here.
I think so.
I don't feel like, if my kids are out by themselves, that I feel like if they were in trouble, like somebody would help them.
For sure.
And remember, we are licensed real estate agents here in the state of Utah, so if you were thinking about moving out here to the beautiful Beehive State, don't forget to call or text that number right there. That is a cell phone, and we can get you started on finding that perfect property for you.
And don't worry what time. Call anytime.
Yes, call anytime. Anytime we're available.